I'm sure by now everybody has heard that My Hero Academia has ended after manga chapter 430 was released in Weekly Shonen Jump, but it seems as though Kohei Horikoshi, despite him finally completing the ultimate task of finishing his long-running Shonen Jump battle series, it doesn't seem as though, at the very least initially, Horikoshi is feeling the greatest. Now, over the last however many years, we've heard constantly that Kohei Horikoshi has either been taking breaks due to health issues, or just in general, it hasn't been the easiest ride of writing this series and putting this series together on a weekly basis. And if you just know anything about the manga industry in general, then you know that it is a very rigorous, laborious job to be a mangaka to begin with. So yeah, you combine all of that to a guy whose health has been going kind of down the tubes over the last few years, you're gonna culminate into somebody that probably has wanted to end this manga for a lot longer than we'd imagine. But based on what he said recently, it doesn't seem as though he's the happiest at the same time completing it. You got to imagine, if you look at an author like Yoshihiro Togashi, for example, there are some creatives that they live and breathe with the work, and they have such high standards and pride in their work, and ultimately it's a big part of their life, that when the work is over, it's kind of like, what do I do? Because we got a couple of different excerpts from Horikoshi since My Hero Academia's finale on things that he's feeling, what he's thinking, and in general where he's at right now that he completed the task. And for starters, one of them starts off with him basically saying that he feels lonely. It says right here, in a recent interview with Nippon TV's News Zero, the creator admitted to feeling a sense of loneliness as the 10-year journey concluded. I feel surprisingly lonely. I was thinking, finally I can reach the goal. Looking back on the series, Horikoshi expressed a mix of surprise and disbelief at the manga's success. Despite the manga's immense popularity, with over 100 million copies in circulation worldwide, that's so crazy, bro. Over 100 million sold, bro. That's surpassing some of the GOATs that have been around for like 20, 30 years. What? Horikoshi described his reaction as more puzzled than triumphant. Honestly, I don't really get it. I never felt like yes or anything like that. It's not humility. I genuinely thought, why? Maybe it just kept going for a long time, he confessed. So basically, that's, in my opinion, he's saying it's not a humility thing, but probably what he's trying to say is that, really, it's this successful, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of came to him. So him saying that is not humility in and of itself is his humility of not understanding, like, bro, dog, you that dude, you made some great stuff. Like, that's why it became successful. There was moments in this series that people for generations to come are gonna go back and rewatch some of those episodes, some of those moments, because they're classic. Horikoshi emphasized that international acclaim was never a goal, stating, I didn't intend or aim for it at all. What I do just happened to cross the sea and be accepted by people of different cultures. And going back to it, him saying that he basically feels surprisingly lonely, you gotta imagine it's a culmination of feelings, right? Like 10 plus years of writing this story, pre-production and all that stuff, getting it ready or whatnot. It's been 10 years of working non-stop on this. It becomes almost as if like a cage of something that you feel like you love, but at the same time it's still a cage nonetheless, because with each and every week getting like, you know, maybe 3-4 hours of sleep a night and constantly being bent over a desk just drawing, it's going to take its toll on anybody. So on one hand, there's the horrors of being a Shonen Jump weekly manga artist for a decade plus, but then on the other side of things is you become so enamored in the work, you become so engulfed, entrenched into like, yo dog, I make manga, you know what I'm saying? I'm a creator. Ultimately, you're going to feel a certain sense of like, oh wow, my fulfillment is kind of gone now. Like, where, you know what I'm saying? Not to mention the fact that as a mangaka, I'm sure he has a multitude of assistants that he probably was seeing every day on a weekly basis for many years, and now he's not with them because obviously they got to move on to their own projects and work for other authors and all that good stuff. So yeah, you're gonna feel a little bit of that at first. I think definitely Horikoshi should occupy his time with things of his interest outside of creating manga. I think the biggest mistake of his right now would be to jump straight into working on a full-length, you know, serialization of any kind. I think he should step back for a bit, observe what he likes, and if he does decide to create manga down the road in the future, maybe do something of a more laxed schedule, but at the same time not too laxed, which I'll talk about in a different video. Like for example, Black Clover going from a weekly manga to every 3 months you're getting 1 or 2 chapters has been an absolute absolute, travesty to the popularity and the potential of the series' success. So doing something along those lines, you're probably not going to see the biggest growth of sorts. You probably would want to come back and at the very least do something monthly, probably even bi-weekly, but definitely a weekly basis should be out of the question for him. We've seen what happened when Masashi Kishimoto tried to return with a weekly serialization with the Samurai 8 manga, and even that didn't really pan out, and that's that he had an artist working on it alongside him, and he was just mainly storyboarding and writing. And as I'm recording this, Horikoshi actually just said something else on Twitter. He provided a drawing for My Hero Academia, which is a pretty interesting piece. It's just Deku with All Might, kind of, celebratory with, I don't know what character that is behind them. And in this text he said, which we used Google Translate, but I also use another translator just because some of these parts are wonky. The manga My Hero Academia has concluded in this week's issue of Jump. It's been falling apart for a long time, but I managed to make it to the end. Now, a lot of people are reading that thinking, oh my god, he's roasting his own series, but I double checked with another translator, and he's more so referring to his own health, because in another translator said, I was already exhausted, but I finally made it to the end. So he's referring to like how tired he's been and how, rigorous the schedule has been. Thank you to everyone who read it. I will never forget the joy and weight of being able to compete with so many interesting manga in the coveted Jump magazine. And above all, the fact that Deku was entrusted with being next to Luffy, even if only for a short time, even if it was just luck. Quickly, first of all, that was not no short time, homie. You've been for 10 years almost next to Luffy. Majority of mangaka that get in the magazine, they get like 6 months to be next to Luffy and then they're out of here. You got 10 years, bro, and it wasn't just luck, because yeah, your series has grown in popularity all the way to the end. It kept growing crazy. Deku and the others are still being drawn in the comics. I think he's probably meaning like some of the spin-off stuff. The anime is still airing. The movie is still being released. The game is still ongoing. The spin-off manga is still being serialized. There are events and so many other people keeping My Hero Academia going. So it doesn't feel like it's over at all. Please continue to support My Hero Academia Plus Ultra, because yeah, for the foreseeable future there's always going to be some My Hero Academia related stuff going on. It's just a matter of, are they going to go the route of doing a sequel with it at some given point, or a spin-off, how they're going to handle that. But I say all that to say, despite Horikoshi's admitting of being lonely and trying to figure it all out, I'd say he should get some rest and do other stuff that he loves while he gets back that mojo to make more. But that's all I have for this one. As always, people, have an awesome day. Subscribe and hit that bell to get more. Thank you. Yeah. But in the end, it always ends with the end. So let's not pretend we can always start anew. We can do it again.